Hello, I'm Dave, founder of Halloween Year Round. Welcome. There'll be food, drinks, and ghosts. Not really, this is kind of just a YouTube video, but hi, I'm Dave, founder of Halloween Year Round. I'm joined here by my friend Patrick.
How's it going, everyone? It is I, the disembodied voice of Vincent Price. Actually, it's me, Patrick. How you doing?
Was that voice coming from your shirt?
You never know. I did
That's
get it
it.
from a mysterious horror convention.
See that? So, obviously, you know me, you know Patrick from the Dead Talk. We here at Halloween Year Round, huge Vincent Price fans. And since today is his 111th birthday,
Today is my 111th birthday.
we thought, we had to commemorate the occasion. We had to honor him by taking a look at the 11 best Vincent Price performances. Just to be clear, this is not like top 11. We're not ranking these against each other. We're going to be listing them in chronological order. We are only focusing on movies. And again, the focus is on his performance, not necessarily the movie itself. So even if it's one that he was like a very minor role in, we're kind of focusing on just him. And even if the rest of the movie wasn't that great, but he was, it's being included as well.
Absolutely, Dave.
That about sound like the ground rules. So Vincent Price, obviously huge legend in horror.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the, if you were to have a Mount Rushmore of, classic horror legends, Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney, maybe Vincent Price, he's definitely on there. So, and that's kind of why we wanted to talk about him here. He's also allegedly the inspiration for the look of Doctor Strange. That famous facial hair and the cape and I kind of see it.
I could definitely believe that too.
So without further ado, let's get to the list.
Yes.
So again, these are the 11 best in chronological order of release. And again, these are his performances that we are looking at, not necessarily the movies themselves. Number 1, Clifford Pyncheon in The House of the Seven Gables. So this one's based on the Nathaniel Hawthorne novel, kind of tied back to Salem, and shall we say it's complicated history?
Yes, very much so.
So what is it, what do you like about this one? What are the highlights of this? Kind of early in his career. This is 1940.
Yes, and also very interestingly enough, a film that wasn't necessarily like as full horror as what he would get into, but a very well done historical drama and character piece. His character of Clifford was very striking. I definitely love the more subtleness of his performance at times, especially like in the beginning when he's betrothed to his beloved, and then of course when he is falsely accused of a crime that he did not commit. Just especially like coming back to the Pitchford home after 20 years, just him being reunited, like it brought a tear to my eye. Like it was just incredible.
Number 2, Professor Henry Jarrod in House of Wax in 3D.
Whoa!
So I love this movie. I love Vincent Price in it. But damn, is it a gimmicky movie with all the random crap they throw? Like the guy, what's it? The little like
the ping pong ball.
Yeah, as he's hitting
I'm sorry, paddle ball. It was a
paddle ball. That's what it is.
Yeah,
and it's like this is it was refreshing to see, because I know we lived through the 3D gimmick of like the recent times.
Yes,
and it was fun to see. 1950s audiences dealt with that nonsense too.
That's right. Well, actually, it's kind of a fall from grace story when you think of it, as he's like a young idealistic wax as a model maker, and he's just very much like he's very passionate about his work. But of course, his partner seeing more in being able to just burn down the establishment to get the insurance money, and then of course leaving him for as a dead as a like twists his very as a nature to basically being a man seeking as a vengeance.
I mean, could you come back from that the same person?
I know.
I don't think
doubt
you
it very high.
could.
Yeah. But I mean, like, but it's just that's the heel turn. Like once again, showing that kind of dynamic range that he's very famous for. Is it for?
Number 3, Frederick Loren in House on Haunted Hill. So if I'm being honest, this is my probably personal favorite. And it's the one that's like peak Vincent Price creepy. It's like, it's the haunted house, it's the ghost, it's him being like the weird, corrupt millionaire. It would be a billionaire today, but back then it was just millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Just let's bring these people into this house and use them like pawns for my weird, twisted little game. He is gleefully evil in this. And I eat it up. I love it. And
he is very devious, especially like, when it comes to him, like faking his wife's death, killing off various people in the house, and just like the eeriness of it all, especially the basement. The basement
from the minute they walk in, it's like the movie sets up this house as like the antagonist, as the villain. And it's like he manages to become scarier than the house. And that is not an easy thing to do. I think the reason why this is my favorite is it's the most iconic in that when you think of classic Vincent Price, I think this movie, this performance is probably where everyone's minds goes to. Number 4, Roderick Usher in House of Usher. So I think what we're learning is that Vincent Price really liked starring in movies that had house in the title.
Especially that of the classical era. As we go further into this list, he was definitely would pick various roles, like set in more historical pieces, and of course Roger Corman, for example, being the savant, as a savant producer as he was, like seeing the talent, like seeing the skill of Vincent Price and really continuing to utilize him to bring him into like various films. And this would definitely be
they made a hell of a team. And I mean, God bless Corman, still kicking, still producing movies at like, I think he just turned 96.
I think 96, 97, but yes, he's definitely
and yeah, he's still making movies. I know. I talked about in the last one, House on the Hill, that the house is the villain. In this story, quite literally, like the house is almost like a monster.
Yes, that is true.
And I think it's interesting that this is like his heyday. This is his peak. That like late 50s, early 60s, and it's kind of an era of horror that I think you would agree with does not get the attention it deserves today.
Absolutely, my friend. Agreed 100%. There's like plenty of incredible films from the late 50s, early 60s that definitely deserve a lot more love, especially if you love Vincent Price. This is definitely like the stuff to check out.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of Vincent Price and Roger Corman, number 5, Nicholas Medina in The Pit and the Pendulum. The trio is back at it. Price, Poe, and Corman. Why do you think, that combination worked so well? That story by Poe, performance by Price, produced or directed by Corman?
Very excellent question. As I've seen every single film on this list, and there's many Roger Corman films with Vincent Price as the starring lead, I think it was a very unique combination of the fact that like Corman knew how to set up a story, especially like since Poe was in the public domain at that point, he was able just to utilize that very quickly and easily, as he did, as he was very famous for, like working on the cheap and being able to.
He knew how to be efficient with his budget, and if you can grab public domain stories, snatch them up.
But not just that, he would also hire very solid writers who would actually help to elaborate on the stories as they were much shorter. So they would add additional characters or even additional scenes to help flesh out the stories is it better. And of course, with Vincent Price being in the main lead for many of them,
Mhm.
it was just incredible to be able to see his interpretation of Poe's work. Because like I said, that theater background, he would have been very much exposed to stories like that. So as a in theater production. So of course you see it's like the perfect trifecta when you get it was actually very intriguing, especially by the very end when you actually see him use like the pendulum device itself. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I thought that was like terrifying, and I was incredible, and I'm just still amazed today how Corman and his team like managed to like do that in such a like on such a budget.
With
And it's
practical
still
effects,
exactly
without killing without
right.
killing any actors. No, actually,
Right.
it's funny that like you spot this in a movie from 1961. There's a saw trap that comes out of that. In the beginning of Saw 6, there's a pendulum trap. And it's just cool to see, like, even decades later in Saw movies, it's like they're still drawing inspiration. Number 6, Dr. Erasmus Craven in The Raven. The Raven's very limited. It's a poem. It's very short. It's about a guy being terrorized by a raven. So really, all this movie could do was kind of adapt the aura of that poem and kind of give Vincent Price his own original character, just because there really isn't much of it to draw from in the source material.
Yeah, I can elaborate a bit more on this myself.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, in this case, as the story was very limited in scope, because of how short it is, Roger Corman took it upon himself to elaborate long on it, which of course would explain the reason why, and of course using his, time as a timing for the amount of filming he had to do. That's how he was able to also do scenes for the Terror as well, in addition to the Raven. Like I said, he worked very smart on that. But focusing more on Price, actually was just very unique and also like very true of the time, like the concept of magicians and sorcery, and how like it's like a family lineage in this case. And then of course like meeting up with another magician's apprentice, in this case with Peter Lorre. Incredible. Like I think it's one of the very few times he was ever working with Price like directly. And along with that, Boris Karloff. Like, so you have 3 legends like just working, like playing off of each other.
Number 7, Prince Prospero in The Masque of the Red Death. So this was one that I watched for the first time. I called the Shutter hotline in April of 2020, and I talked to Sam Zimmerman, he's the curator of Shutter, and I said, I kind of want something thought-provoking. And he's like, well, given that it's April of 2020, how do you want a movie about a plague? And I'm like, all right. So he's like, check out Masque of the Red Death. And this is one that up to this point, we've seen Price play all manner of spooky villains. We've seen him in the haunted houses. We've seen him in the house that like literally consumes itself, and him. This is him just playing like a straight up classical, almost Shakespearean villain.
I just love how devious he is, how charismatic he is. I just love like every moment he's on screen, everything from just him going into the village and like kidnapping this as a young beautiful woman to serve as one of his as a brides to him, like just entertaining everyone in his as a huge castle ballroom. Basically, like everyone outside is like like trying to get in, like like of course like he's just enjoying
like
it all.
He's living it up while they're suffering. Like he's the kind of guy that the French in 1789 would have broken in and executed.
Right. And not only that, just the production wise is incredible as well. Just seeing like Roger Corman really going full on out, filming in England at a real as a castle in order to get it just right. And like actually one of my favorite moments is just Price's character of Prince Prospero, like, just showing her as just showing like his get as a guest this yellow room, and it's like there's different painted rooms, like, throughout the castle, and this yellow room in particular, he talks about how he literally imprisoned someone, kept them there for years just seeing nothing but yellow, and then when he actually like finally let him out, like he couldn't stand anything besides the color of yellow, and he actually kills himself. I'm like, geez, like, man, like
It's
that's brutal.
dark.
Yeah, it is
He
dark. Yeah,
he
it's
he
just
he goes full like, and again, I know I said that it's kind of a different villain role, but it's similar to House on Haunted Hill in the sense that both characters, in this one as well, he likes to toy with people.
yes,
Like
very
they're
much
his,
so.
like he's the puppeteer and
Yes.
they're his playthings.
Mhm.
Number 8, Dr. Robert Morgan in The Last Man on Earth. So we have talked about Price as a villain. This is probably, it's another one of my favorites because here he's the hero. He's the archetype. I mean, this is the original I Am Legend adaptation that would later be adapted into the Omega Man and then the Will Smith I Am Legend movie. Here, he is humanity's last hope.
I mean, everything from just like his daily routine as we see him, like foraging for food, and then of course, trying to continue the work on the medicine, be able to like reverse this plague, to even just the flashbacks of his own daughter's as a death. Like it was like haunting, especially like when he's trying to like take her body back. Like it was heartbreaking to watch that part.
It is. And again, it's him tapping more into that dramatic side where the movie itself, I would consider a horror movie. It is kind of one of your first examples of a post-apocalyptic movie. I know that George A. Romero drew a lot of inspiration from this when he made Night of the Living Dead, but it only works because of his because he treats it seriously and dramatically. His performance sells this nightmarish world, that he lives in. Number 9, Matthew Hopkins in Witchfinder General. So now we're back to him being despicable again.
Yep.
And despicable in a way that, I know we talked about this before. This is his most lawful evil role.
Yes. Very much so.
He's burning people alive. He's executing innocent people, but
having
it's
them
like,
drowned.
and it's like he's so self-righteous about it.
Right.
That kind of makes it even worse. And that like he thinks he's doing God's work.
Yeah, yeah. Like he's not as quote unquote like holier than thou as one would think. Especially like doing that, and then of course his as his like assistants like, hey, wait a minute, why is it like, can't I just torture him some more? He's like, no, he's like, not for today.
His performance in this, I think, is the embodiment of the quote, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Number 10, Dr. Anton Phibes in The Abominable Dr. Phibes.
I'm not gonna lie, like this was like one of the first Vincent Price movies I ever saw where it was just so different, but at the same time though, I just loved it. I didn't know exactly what to think of it in the beginning, but by the end, I'm like, this is incredible. So it's a 70s art house horror film. That's the best way I could describe it. Where Vincent Price is playing the eponymous Dr. Phibes, as a man whose wife tragically is on the brink of death, and there's several different doctors who are trying to save her, and yet they're not able to. So he then decides to take vengeance upon them via like these elaborate instances of the plagues of Egypt. So basically, he's like a very themed villain when it comes to like what he's doing.
He goes full mad scientist here.
Yeah, actually, like very much like actually, I'll be even honest when I say this one. He might actually be like the basis for the original Jigsaw in certain respects, with the very elaborate traps.
I never thought of it, but yeah, maybe.
the way they're also connected to the plagues of Egypt, which was incredible. Like, for example, like there's like one of the doctors is like, just like flying in his private airplane, and there's rats that are in it that are gnawing his face, which is of course like that's one of the plagues. Like they're each one specifically themed. It's incredible. Like I never would have. I mean, especially the scene with the locusts, like devouring that one doctor's face. I'm like, wow, that was just chilling.
And I think the fact that you said it's like an art house 70s, the 70s was like the Wild West of filmmaking, where you could do anything, you could try anything. And this movie is an example of that, just the kind of unhinged creativity. Number 11. The Inventor in Edward Scissorhands. So this is very much kind of, I'd say this one kind of stands apart from the rest. This one is much later in his career. Sadly, it is his final performance, but it is a great one to go out on. It's him working with an up and coming, Tim Burton, who was a huge fan of his, and it feels like there's a real passing of the torch.
And originally, he was supposed to have more scenes, but due to his failing health at the time, they weren't able to do as much. But if anything, weirdly enough, it actually added to the film as a whole, especially like when it did come to like the final moment where he's like attempting to give Edward like those hands that he would be able to have so he could actually be like everyone else, and he tragically dies. And it really does break your heart. Like if anything, you feel even more for the character.
He's just this is I think the warmest we've ever seen Vincent Price in a movie. Given his age, he kind of fits that like just very warm friend. He seems like your grandfather.
Yes.
He just kind of gives off that vibe, and you're right. It's a tragic moment, and what a movie to go out on. Inventor. Which character of his from an earlier movie do you think the Inventor is like the old version of?
No, that's a really good one.
Definitely not Dr. Phibes.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, no.
Or Roderick Usher.
Yeah, definitely not. That's a good one. Like specifically on the top, as a top 11, or could it be
any performance?
That's a good one.
Have I stumped you?
Is it? Well, actually, well, not necessarily. Actually, maybe like the Tingler for Dr. Warren as a chaplain, because like, because originally like he was studying like the prospect of fear, but then he ultimately realizes that wasn't necessarily like the right way to go. So maybe he could have gone into another direction, like in his field of study. So that's one. And while he's more of a sorcerer character for Vincent Van Gogh in the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, he definitely has a very warm performance, and very much like a grandfatherly figure in that too. So,
and I think that's what makes this one stand out.
Absolutely.
So that is our list. There's a bunch of movies to pull from. It was honestly difficult to narrow it down to just these 11, let alone trying to rank them, which we agreed not to even attempt.
Right.
Before we go, though, we did want to highlight just a few honorable mentions that are amazing and we wanted to feature, but they didn't quite make the top 11. So
very, very true.
Here they are. All right, well, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Tell us, what is your favorite Vincent Price performance or movie? Let us know in the comments. Hopefully, there are some movies here that you've been inspired to go check out and watch for yourself. Spread the horror and all that. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. If you don't, you may end up on Dr. Phibes' list as he attempts to recreate one of the plagues of Egypt to deal with you.
Or you could be terrorized by the eponymous Prince Prospero in his castle of horrors.
It's a lot of things Vincent Price characters could do to you. So have fun thinking about that, trying to sleep tonight. So once again, thanks for watching. My name is Dave. And of course, as always, every day is Halloween.
And this is your pal Patrick, speaking of Vincent Price from Beyond the Grave, encouraging you all to continue to watch horror films and keep America strong. Thanks.